I don't have a joke, but I'll just tell you, I went to the zoo yesterday, so you can imagine a joke in your mind with a 1-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And Luke expresses, Nana, that baboon loves you just like you love me. And everybody looked, I go, yep, just like that. That's how I love you. I give you hugs, and I hold you and love you close. And at least he didn't say I looked like the baboon. That's good, right? But thank you, Cerise. That was so beautiful. Today we are talking about the house that Spirit built. And that song really does fit into that vision as we start to explore how we fit in our community and how we build our brand and how do we want to move and be and what do we want to be known for. And in our world today, in lots of different climates, we want to stand for peace and love and beauty and joy and bliss. And we want to be here for the Great Awakening and to be a center built on a very solid foundation of love and joy and peace, reality and truth. And that became very apparent to me as I have been deeply praying about this center and asking Spirit what it wants from us. And as I do, when something is, I like to say, downloaded or given to me by Spirit, I call, my people. We all have people. And one of the things that we started to talk about was how do we take a beautifully established building and breathe the life into it to be a beacon of light in the community. And for me to learn to trust when these things are given to me. And what clearly came to me was a house is only as strong as its foundation. So this is who we are. We're a community dedicated to truth, to love, and the evolution of consciousness. Our mission is to provide spiritual tools that empower individuals to transform their personal lives. It starts with us. If we want to make a world that works for everybody, we must make a world that works for us, because the world is a projection of our reality, of our own personal perception, becomes our reality. So our mission, again, is to provide spiritual tools that empower individuals to transform their personal lives by extension, by extension of the world. So when we've talked about having a clear vision, having a calm mind, having our house, and how do we become the change makers. And the change makers is that we all have our own unique way of being in the world. Some of us want to march. Some of us like to sit and meditate and pray. Some of us do different things, but there's something for all of us to do, and we are drawn to it. And the authenticity of ourselves is to honor that. Because last week we talked about the sacred and the mundane. And this is where these two blend together. That we start to see that the reality of life is also our spiritual essence, without the overlay of our conditions and compulsions and patterns. Ernest Holmes reminds us we need to know with scientific certainty that there is a consciousness and a power in the universe that responds to us definitely, directly, and dynamically. And by centering our thoughts in the invisible essence, reality, the invisible essence of reality, we build a foundation that leads us to enjoy the abundance of all good things. It is truly God's good pleasure to give us the keys to the kingdom. And we must have our hand open to receive them. Otherwise, they'll just fall on the floor. And then we might be looking around for them going, I can't get in that building because I don't have the keys, when you had them all the time. I was reminded of a story of a lady wearing a diamond necklace, and she was in search of this necklace, and it was on her neck the whole time. And no matter who she met, when they were like, well, hello, it's right there, she couldn't see it. she couldn't see it by way of consciousness. So part of building a house that Spirit, or being in a house that Spirit built, is developing the conscious patterns of spiritual principle and standing firm on those. We're not just here for a Sunday gathering, but it is a sanctuary of transformation, a spiritual home where seekers find connection, wisdom, and purpose to live their everyday lives, our everyday lives. Every soul who walks through our doors is met with the invitation to expand to their highest potential. That is what we want our center. That is what I want our center to be known for. That is the foundation we're laying. And there's been many things since I walked through the doors, many iterations, and lots of different personality types. And sometimes they refer to it as storming, norming, and forming. And I just say, we're learning. We're learning to be together. We're learning to be heart-centered. We're learning our personalities. We're learning our differences. And sometimes that's very painful. I don't know about you, but it's been painful for me. But through the process, I'm learning to love deeper, harder. And I'm learning to listen to Spirit's guidance over Tracey's, wants sometimes. But the beauty of the thing that comes out of the pain is the building of the foundation. So when you build a house, you think about it, right? You pick your property, or maybe you're in a subdivision, you pick your lot, and then you drive by it every now and then, and they start to, you've picked it, you've paid for it, you get really excited, and then you go to visit, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of rocks, and how are they going to get all these rocks and weeds and things that we didn't know, right? The builder discovers things they didn't know, and the buyer discovers things that they didn't know. And together, they begin the excavation process so that the foundation that is laid is solid and firm. Because as Ernest Holmes said, the foundation must be solid. We must relieve ourselves of the discordant thought, the boulders. So a reflective question that's been coming up for me is, how do you see yourself as a living part of the foundation? That's what I'd ask you. How do you see in our home that we are building? Because every time there's a change, every time something new comes, every time there is an invitation by Spirit to change, we are rebuilding or building. So the question I have for you is the same question I've been contemplating. How do you see yourself as a living part of our foundation? What we are building becomes our vision, the blueprint, and the framework, which we're going to talk about in our family meeting today. And I saw this Instagram post, because that's where I get all my quotes from, that said, Aaron Neville likes the analogy SPEC. Select, project, expect, and collect. So it's been kind of my thing, right? When I think about something that I want, I'm selecting it. And then projecting it is going into your imagination and sitting with it until you can see it clearly. And you can see, because your body doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality, really. And so what I discovered is it's so much easier to talk about what's not happening, why it's not happening, who didn't call us, what happened at work, than it is to sit 5 minutes and vision your dream for yourself or for a community or for your home or whatever the case may be. Part of building the foundation is sitting and nurturing your desire, projecting it. And why is it so difficult for us to give that goodness to ourselves? I don't know about you, but when I sit, I'm like, okay, I can see it. The phone rings, or I'm like, ooh, what's on Instagram? Or I'm hungry. Where's the chocolate cake? And all of these intruding thoughts come when I sit to give something to myself as a gift. And I started to realize that this is the process of really determining, is this what you want? Right? Because it really pushes you to look at what you've selected And if it's not quite turning out the way you wanted, then you have to select again. So the vision that I see that came to me is, and that we're bringing in what we talked about in the leadership meeting in September, some of those things in. And one of the things that I had when I sat and met with Sue and was discussing with her this vision that Spirit kept planting in my mind was a house. And I thought, oh, I'm moving, which we all agree we want that, and it's coming too. But this was more of a vision of a house that Spirit built. And how do we take from where we are to get to where we're going? Well, we select it. We talk about it as a community. We make some agreements with one another. We have to establish our mission, our vision, and our values, because that is what everything else is going to be built off of. So what came to me was to be a sanctuary for seekers, a beacon of love, a force for good, where truth, love, faith create a future rooted in divine abundance, wisdom, and connection. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? Well, I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me. And I didn't create this vision alone. Spirit placed it in my heart, and together we're going to bring it into life. Together as a community, we are going to breathe life into it. This center, it's our home. It's a heart-centered home. It's a place where Spirit dwells. And yes, Spirit dwells in all things, but what we give our attention to, what we focus on, we get more of. So if we're focusing on our home and we're pouring our attention into it and we are taking ownership of where we come to seek and nourish ourselves, you're not only giving the gift to the community, but you're giving it to yourself. You will see your life grow in accordance to the same, what you get or what you give, you get back. So as this community grows and you deepen in those spiritual principles and we are bound by our mission, vision, and values, we've laid the foundation, then we can put up the walls. Not put up in the walls as to keep people out, but every house needs some walls, some drywall, some sheetrock, a roof. And that's what we're doing. That's the plan that we are laying out so that we can clearly see the path. Not to the end, because there is no end. Clearly to lay out the path, to see where we all belong, and to create a place where everybody has a voice, and to lay this out so that at any point we can say, oh, I see, we are in the painting phase, or we're in the, putting up the stucco phase, and anybody can look at the plan and see where we are. That's what laying the solid foundation gives us. And this is a principle for your life as well, for any project or desire that you're undergoing. Because the other thing that has come to me, and we talk a lot about treat and move your feet, but how it came to me in a way that I understood it more clearly is desire integrated with action yields results or manifestation. That's treat and move your feet. You have a desire, you select, you project, and you integrate it with the action that Spirit is asking you to take. And this is sometimes where we fall short in our personal lives, is that sometimes in our philosophy we get a little wonky. We think, oh, I just have to sit in my rocking chair and God's going to bring it to me. And maybe if you are a darn good manifester, that might be true. But typically, Spirit is never standing still, so you can't be either, right? And sometimes it's the movement of mind or the silence. So just as a home requires attention and effort, so does building a thriving community. Gordon B. Hinckley wisely stated, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you're going to build a superstructure. Through spiritual practice, collective visioning, and aligned action, we manifest what we expect and what we believe. So the question is, what do we believe about our center? I heard this recently from the same person that talked about the spec, and she was referring to this book called The Miracle Journal by Aaron Neville, or maybe somebody wrote it based on his work. And she said, we often talk that you get what you believe, And she said, you get what you believe in. So if we believe in chaos, we'll see more chaos. If we believe in fear, we'll probably see more fear. If you believe in lack, you probably might experience lack. And so what we're here to do is to look at that discordant and replace it with a spiritual principle that's rooted in a strong foundation that cannot shake us, to enable this building to be here long beyond me or any minister or any congregate, that it is a standing foundation in this community, a beacon of light for those who are looking to spiritually seek and awaken to their highest and true self. That it is a functioning, moving, energetic being all of its own. And every center goes through iterations, because spirit is never standing still. It is never not moving. It is never not creating. So it doesn't mean that what was here before wasn't good. It doesn't mean there was anything wrong with it. It means that desire for expression is billowing up and wishing to become that through you, something greater. And that it takes all of us collectively to do it. And we're all learning from one another as we go through that journey. A question that came from me: what part of this house are you helping to build? We all have a personal ownership in where we come to be spiritually nurtured. And what I love and want to see, and was always my principle when I was a manager in banking, was, when I was a teller, they would say, go over there and file those signature cards. When you did that, I'm aging myself. And I hated it. I hated, and then it would just tear your cuticles, and you had to do alphabetical order, and I was like, why won't my boss ask me to do something I like? And so I would say, discover what you like. Discover what you love and build it into our foundation. And sometimes you might have to do the job you might not want to, but only to help somebody else if they can't. But a strong foundation is supporting each other in our time of need and also in our time of joy. And it's also this discovery of self and your own way of moving and being in the world, and your own patterning and how to turn and the ship. All of that is our own responsibility. But what a place with a solid foundation does is gives us the avenue to make that happen. And I don't know about you, but that excites me. When this was given to me, and I was talking to Spirit, and I was being reminded of why I became a minister. Some days I'm like, why did you choose me for this job? It is the hardest job I have ever done, and I don't have what it takes. And Sue said something to me today. We were having a discussion on the way up, and she said, help me with the want. What was the way we talked about with the want?
What you want, whether or not it will hurt you or hurt you.
Right. So you're afraid. Sometimes we're afraid of what we want, right? We have a great desire and we're afraid of it. Like, if we actually get it, we might fail. And so when I was growing up, my mom would say, you can't date that person, or you can't do that, or you can't do this. And because she was raised that way. And she didn't encourage confidence in your own choice. So sometimes the call that is calling us, we don't get it because we're afraid of what we want. We're afraid that if we actually get it, we might lose it, or that we're not worthy enough to have it. But there's a great fear in actually receiving the thing that you've asked Spirit to collect, because it requires a lot of personal responsibility from you. I think Hazel said this in a talk one time, a long time ago, that personal responsibility to receive what you're manifesting means you got to show up. You got to show up in your own life. You can't complain about it anymore, because now you know how it works. So desire integrated with action yields results. And so our purpose, really, it's to awaken humanity to spiritual magnificence. We are no longer just dreaming about this house. We are building it. This is a time for action and full ownership, for stepping into the expectancy of what Spirit is doing through us. We've been given a divine invitation, and that's my invitation to you, is a divine invitation to create something lasting, something sacred, something alive with possibility. Each of us has a place and a purpose in this house. Every prayer, every tithe, every act of service lays another brick in the foundation of a community that stands for spiritual awakening and love. As David Brinkley noted, a successful person is one who can lay a firm foundation with bricks others have thrown at them. A successful person is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks that others have thrown at them. We must come together with clear focus, unwavering faith, to claim and embody what Spirit already has set in motion. How will you step into the ownership of this sacred space? I was meeting with Sue, and for some reason I opened my phone, and when I went through ministerial school, Dr. Kathy Hearn was our teacher in leadership, and I had to turn in a mission, vision, purpose, and I just avoided it like the plague. I did not want to turn it in. And we had just gotten Luke, and it was Super Bowl Sunday, and yada, 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 yada. I told you have to take responsibility for your stuff, right? And I just couldn't sit. I just didn't believe it was going to come through to me. I didn't believe Spirit was really talking to me. I didn't even know why I was in ministerial school, to be honest with you. So she called me on a Sunday, and she's like, I need it or you fail. Oh, that lit a fire really quickly, because failure is not an option. And I went into my meditation room, and what came from it, Clay, do we have that slide? What came from this, but the unique thing about this was when Sue and I were meeting about this vision, I opened my phone and that email from 2018 was sitting on my home screen. I haven't looked at it since 2018. So I wanted to share it with you because it reminded me of the message that Spirit gave me. And I always thought it was for a center I would build, and it is. It's for this center that we are all building. The purpose of my ministry is to share wisdom through spiritual truths and higher ideas in a variety of ways and settings, such as teaching, talks, and one-on-one interactions. My vision is to have a heart center for spiritual living, an embodiment and a representation of light and love, sharing the right teaching, right action, and right human relations for all humanities and all kingdoms. My mission is to create a sacred, energetically balanced environment, sanctuary, a space that invokes a calm mind. Interesting that the talk last week was a calm mind because I didn't read this until Wednesday. An open heart to recognize the absolute truth and beauty of life, sacred in the mundane, with a focus on service to family, community, and work. When I read this and I was sitting with Sue, I was verklempt, and we're in Starbucks, and she's like, that's it! We're gonna build on that. Now this is mine, and I say mine. This is what Spirit gave to me to share, and I firmly believe it showed up, and that the talks previous all balanced, because this is how Spirit works. When you start to inquire and you start to question, and you might be going through some things that Spirit, when you ask for clarity, Spirit delivers. You pick up the keys and you open the door. So I will close with this. As we stand on the threshold of manifesting our shared vision that we will determine together today, I invite each of you to take pride in the ownership of the sacred space that we are beginning to co-create in a different way. Embrace the faith and the trust that in the house that Spirit is building through us, guided by the divine intelligence of love. Remember, Ernest Holmes says, all the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as if it were true. Our collective consciousness serves as a foundation upon which this spiritual home rests. Thoughts, intentions, the things we contribute, the way we shape the essence of our energy is this center. by maintaining an elevated mental attitude and focusing on the higher truths that we teach, we align ourselves with a divine pattern Spirit has placed in us. Spirit has envisioned a home for us, a beacon of light in the community of Prescott. Holmes reminds us of this: prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. So let us take those words, commit to nurturing our thoughts of love, peace, and abundance, knowing that we infuse into our center mentally, what we infuse mentally will manifest outwardly. Together, in unity and purpose, we bring forth into form a sacred space that Spirit desires. Not Tracey, not Sabrina, not Sue or Hazel, but Spirit. A beacon of light and a love for all was a clear message in this world today that can be a very scary and chaotic place. But once you know the truth of your nature and you have directly experienced that, there's nothing to be afraid of. And so it is. And we will anchor that in prayer. I just know right here and right now, as we set the personalities in motion to honor the desires of Spirit, that we give ourselves to that essence, to take action in laying the foundation of love, light, beauty, peace, joy. All the qualities that we attribute to God are the qualities that we live daily. We can utilize that mental energy to be a habitat for humanity. That it requires effort and work and diligence, but only in so much as you're pointing your direction and you increase that energy and focus a little bit each day. And as that energy focus grows, there goes the manifestation. That these spiritual laws on which this center and this principle were built are bound by Spirit, given to us to utilize. And everything in my being understands this as truth and reality. That we are a beacon of light. We are a heart-centered community. And that we move and have our being in that way. And when discordance arises, and it will, we just simply say, not here, not today. We are calling in the light. We are calling in the love. We are calling in the unity. And we are joining the highest mental energy of creation. That the house that we desire is already here. And we pick up the keys, open the door, and walk into it. And the feeling that we are left with is safety, security, love. Because where Spirit dwells, two or more with the same mental attitude increases the energy, the vibration, the magnitude of impact. One person awakens, the entire world is awake. And so it is.